We look like a band. What's that band called? That has the ZZ Top. We look like ZZ Top.
No, geez, we do not look like ZZ Top. Because in order to look like ZZ Top, you'd have to have like beards down to here.
Oh,
You
right.
thought Buddy had a bad
Well,
beard.
you got a beard.
Yes, I do have a beard.
I think the hats. I think we're early. Yeah, we're early, but not that early. And the comments and stuff doesn't come up on this one. So from here, for some reason, I don't know if it has to do with the VPN.
It could be.
But it doesn't. So we will have to keep an eye on it because we have to be, hey, we are here from Mexico. So when you're there, say hello. Let us know who you are. We will check at the end of just to see if we have any comments because for some reason they don't come up as they come in here. So when you're there, say hello. Let us know who you are. We see that already that there's a few people watching. Hey, Kim. Oh, it did come up.
Come up, all right. All right, so say hello because we can see the comments.
We decided to keep our shades on. We're going to take them off in a minute.
Because our future's so bright.
Yeah. Oh.
Actually, it's really hilarious because today's really cloudy in Mexico, so it's not that bright.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about, hey, Aaron, today we're going to be talking about mindset and how your mindset specifically could be derailing your progress. We're going to get into it here in a minute because we want to be respectful of everybody's time plus our own. So, what do you want to do? Give it another second or so? We have 5 people watching. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to say hello. I will start off by saying that first, we are in another intake of clients. We sold 2 other spots today. So we have 25 spots left for the March program. The March program starts March 10th for orientation, and then March 17th is the official start date. So technically it's over the course of 7 weeks because I include a week of orientation. So just putting it out there that we are currently in the process of having conversations and taking new clients. So if you're interested in fat loss, if you're interested in having a better relationship with food, improving your mindset, having some accountability, learning how to have food freedom and balance while still achieving your goals and not having to cut out carbs and donuts and fun stuff at the same time, that would mean you're a good fit for me. As long as you are an action taker, you are willing to dig deep, and what else? I guess that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, I just want to briefly say that. So what we're talking about again is how mindset could be derailing your progress, and the reason why we chose this topic is because I've personally found that over my almost 11 years coaching women and coaching over 2,500 women, that a lot of times when it comes to goals like fat loss and lifestyle change and whatever, we don't really realize, I think, the impact that your mindset and all of those things has, and all of the things that go into mindset have on your ability to show up. We look at all of these goals as, well, I just have to eat better and I just have to move more, etc. But it goes a lot deeper than that. So we're going to talk today about getting into all of this and how it affects. So more deeper than the surface level stuff. So you can go ahead. No, so I just babbled a lot.
Yes, and you stole my thunder. So and I can't read that. What did you just say?
I did this part.
You did that part. Oh, so I guess. So I guess the biggest thing that we should probably clarify is what exactly is mindset.
Did you have too many drinks at the pool today?
I did. They actually put alcohol in my coffee, and I'm not used to that. No, I'm joking.
So yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So what is mindset? So mindset technically is a combination of your self-sabotaging tendencies, your stories, your patterns, the lies you tell yourself, the language you use with yourself, how your inner bitch, as we call her, talks to you. It's a combination of your thoughts, your beliefs, your respect for yourself or lack thereof. It's how you keep the promises to yourself. Do you know how to do that? How you prioritize yourself. It's basically all of that in one whole thing. for lack of a better word.
For lack of a better word, I think the thing between your ears, the gray matter that's inside your skull.
I always tell my clients that mindset is the most important part. So I don't feel like you can uh, really hone in on what I teach, which is lifestyle change, not just fat loss, without digging into mindset too.
Right.
So when we talk about, I guess, mindset and how it could be derailing your progress. So you have what we classify as growth oriented mindset and fixed oriented mindset. So when we're somebody who is growth oriented mindset, that means that we look at the, for lack of better term or lack of better phrase, we look at the glasses half full. So even though we stumble, we fumble, we struggle, we get obstacles, we don't look at that and go, okay, this wasn't meant for me, or okay, fuck this, I can't do it. Instead, we look at it and basically then assess as to how we're still going to achieve something and overcome something despite the things that come up to block us. A fixed mindset, however, is basically a glass half empty in some ways, but also moreover, I came across an obstacle, fuck, this must not be meant for me, or I can't do this, or this is not who I am. And no thought process of how you could, that basically comes to a full stop. Now, in saying that, even if you are fixed mindset, you can become growth mindset. And some people in certain situations are a combination of the two. So I feel like even for myself, even though I'm much more growth oriented mindset than I am fixed, there have been in the past for sure certain things that have come up where I've felt more fixed than I am growth, and vice versa. Kevin used to be more fixed than growth. And now, in the last few years specifically, Kevin's way more growth than he is fixed. So again, you can overcome those thought processes of I can't do it, this is not who I am, et cetera, and become more growth and grasp onto more growth oriented tendencies as you learn how to work through your mindset and as you learn to become more self-aware.
Yeah, I was such a fixed mindset person. My colleague, there was two of us that looked after supervision for the company I used to work for, and every time I would start, we had a big project to do, and I had my to-do list of everything to do, and something would inevitably go sideways. And my colleague would always tell me, you know what, you've got to stop chiseling that plan in stone. Mm-hmm. Everything used to be just chiseled in stone. I always racked my brain around trying to plan for every eventual, inevitable outcome, which you obviously can't do. So, eventually something would fly apart and then you're totally screwed. So if you have a fixed mindset, it's really difficult for you to get back on the horse and carry on once there's a deviation in the path.
Yes, because fixed oriented people tend to have tendencies whereby once the roadblock comes, they can't see a way around it. And because they can't see a way around it, again, they stop, or they convince themselves that there's no way, instead of looking at, okay, how could I do this? Who could I lean on? Could I hire a coach? Could I do this? Could I do that to overcome this thing? So basically, that's mindset in a nutshell. Growth versus fixed, and all of these things intermingle between your language and your beliefs and your patterns, etc., to create the mindset that you currently have. But again, you have control over the changes that you can make. So when we talk about that, now we want to talk about how your mindset itself could be derailing you or preventing you from success and from achieving the thing. So when I talk to my clients about mindset, I always talk to them, as I said, about mindset being the main overarching thing that brings you where you want to go. Because if you have, again, more fixed oriented mindset versus growth oriented mindset, you're going to come across a lot of things that are going or have the potential to stop you in your tracks, and that have the potential to make you believe that you are not capable of whatever it is you're going after. But if we can dig into your patterns, your stories, your self-sabotaging tendencies, your self-limiting beliefs, the language you use with yourself, if we can teach you how to keep the promises to yourself by keeping your goals super small, we can teach you by pointing out some of the lies you could potentially telling yourself and asking yourself, are these things actual reality? Do I have anything that that says that this thing is actually fact, or am I making it up?
Right.
And then we can start to move through some of the potential roadblocks that you're creating in your mind.
Yeah, because the first, like you said, the first step in the whole thing is to create the awareness. First of all, that you do have that, that your mindset's what's holding you back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can often tell by some of the language that people use when you're coaching them, and they get to a certain point where they run into that proverbial brick wall that they can't see over around. Well, you have enough experience and expertise to understand that the language, you can pick up on the language you're using right away that says, well, this is where they end up every single time they get to this point, and they struggle with it. But because they constantly tell themselves that, they can't see it. They don't understand it. They don't understand that it's a mindset issue. They think that, well, you keep telling me that I've got to do 20 push-ups or a minute-long plank or something like that, and they can't get past 5, right? So every time they can't get past 5 push-ups, the automatic process is, well, I just can't. There's no way that I can do this. Instead of, okay, well, how do I make the push-up process a little bit easier on myself? Like, say the issues with the knees or the issues with the joints. There's just different ways that you can do the push-ups that make it a little bit easier, that gets them through that. But when they don't have that thought process, when the mindset is fixed on the fact, well, I can only do 5 and that's it, I can never get past that. So that's where you're talking about having that very fixed mindset and being able to recognize that these are the things that you can put in place, because you do have control. And the control is understanding and learning the variables.
I think that on some level what happens is that even if we take out the whole growth versus fixed, and we say most people sit somewhere in the middle between the two, at the end of the day, still, regardless if you're more growth or more fixed, or you're somewhere in the middle, you still have a choice as to how long you allow certain language in your head, the lack of the patterns and stories, and whether or not you're willing to develop more self-awareness to overcome them, whether you can sit with yourself and ask yourself the hard questions and put in the extra effort to overcome it. It's not easy, and I'm not saying that it is, but at the end of the day, when you're looking at mindset and someone's mindset, a client's mindset or my mindset or whatever, what you're looking at building is some sort of sense of, in small patterns and in small ways, you're looking to build the client's self-confidence through helping them understand how to keep the promises to themselves. You're looking to build this client's self-belief, because the more we can show up for the promises we make for ourselves, the more confident we're going to be, the more belief we're going to have in ourselves. And then when we start doing things mindset wise, it also helps build on the client's ability to trust themselves. I can do these things. Holy shit, look at all the things I showed up for this week. That means I can do it again next week, and I can do it again the week after, and I can add on the week after that, or whatever.
Right.
And then that also then promotes more self-respect, more self-love, and all of that together comes from building the client's self-awareness.
Right. Because in the beginning, clients usually have the thought process of go big or go home. They got to go hard. Everything has to be complicated. Everything has to be all or nothing, right? Those are a lot of trade keywords that we use in terms of mindsets. The all or nothing mentality. When you have that mentality, you're not able to achieve the small wins. You're not necessarily always able to achieve the confidence, because you set the bar too high.
Yeah, you're not able to. I think that when you have more all or nothing tendencies and perfectionist tendencies like I used to, it's not that you can't achieve, or even, it's just that you can't see those small wins as actually being wins. You don't feel like you're propelling yourself forward, because you're still stuck at 10 when you feel like you should be at 100.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one thing that I do want to point out real quickly is that you can get results without ever digging into mindset when it comes to fat loss, progress, and stuff like that. So I was talking to a client about this last week, and I basically told her that when it comes to fat loss, it's the surface level stuff is science. You need a calorie deficit to achieve fat loss, a consistent calorie deficit, I should say, to achieve fat loss. You need improved food quality. You need protein, fiber, more movement, strength training, an ability to, prioritize sleep, etc. That's all science. So you can achieve fat loss if that's all you do. But will the fat loss be sustainable if you've never dug into your mindset, your patterns, your beliefs, all the things that encompass mindset? I think not. Personally, I would not be where I am today if I didn't develop more self-awareness, more self-respect, more self-love, more self-belief, more self-confidence, just the whole improved growth mindset versus fixed.
Right.
And when I deal with mindset, I'm talking about, and I use this phrase with my clients all the time, it's about digging deep. And when I say digging deep, realistically, I guess what I'm talking about is sitting with your stuff. So every person on the planet resists something or other that they know technically they need to do or should do to achieve something. So when it comes to fat loss, some of us might resist going for the walk or resist doing the workout because we simply don't feel like it. Or we might tell ourselves we're not motivated and therefore we're not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Or we might resist going to bed early, or we might resist, we might continue to tell ourselves we don't have time, and yet our amount of time we spend scrolling social media or the amount of time we spend on Netflix says otherwise, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So those are the things that I'm talking about. I always say that change happens, sustainable change happens from the inside out, not the outside in. Mm-hmm. But I've seen surface level results happen. Obviously, you can have them with diets, with fad diets, with all kinds of stuff. But sustainable change happens from the inside out because you have to grow as an individual. And something that I read a couple of weeks ago is that growth is a dance, not a light switch. So I think that a lot of times too, when we come into a change in our appearance for aesthetic reasons, fat loss, etc., we have somewhere inside us a sense of entitlement. It's like we're entitled to results because we've chosen this goal, when realistically we haven't done any of the deeper digging or put in any of the time to actually achieve it yet.
Right. The way I look at it, in the context of what you've said so far, the way I look at it is the surface level results basically is a change. You change your appearance, you change your physique, and even some ways you change how you feel because you look better and feel better. However, when you dig deep, like you do with your clients, when you dig deep and get into the mental aspect and show them how to get sustainable long-term results, it's no longer just a change, it's a transformation. They've exactly what you said, not just the outside, but also on the inside. They've changed outside and inside. When you change outside and inside, it's a transformation.
That's absolutely.
It's not a change. Physical change is a change. It's not a transformation because your mind is still who you are.
That's a really good point.
You're only taking the actions and the steps required to make a physical change. That's the surface level.
Right, and at Fit Girls Rock, I can 100% say that when you sign on with us, with me as your coach, we're not just looking to make changes to you. Even though I know even though I know most of my clients come to me for aesthetic change, they want fat loss or they want a lifestyle that's different. At the end of the day, my goal as the coach in Fit Girls Rock is to transform my clients, both mentally and physically. Health and wellness should make your life better, not worse. So the next thing I think that I want to touch on is that when we talk about mindset and how it derails our progress, I asked a question one time a long time ago to all of my clients. Hey, sister, to all of my clients who used to come to see me in person. So they would come in and I would ask them. I think the question was something like, what do you think derails your progress most? And people said things like, well, I'm not consistent. Some people said I don't work out enough. Some people said I don't show up when I'm not motivated. Some people said there's 23 other hours in the day and I only see you for an hour. Those kind of things. And I said something like, those things are all impacted by how you think, the language you use, the beliefs you have about yourself, and the patterns and choices you've made that create who you are. And so I said basically that mindset then is the thing that, either is your biggest ally, yes, or your greatest enemy. So it's going to be the thing that holds you back, or it's going to be the thing that propels you forward. Because at the end of the day, mindset will affect your consistency, which ultimately will affect your progress and your results. Mindset will affect your ability to sustain said results. Mindset will affect your self-trust, your self-love, your self-belief, your self-confidence. It will affect your ability to stay accountable to yourself. It will affect your level of ability to prioritize the things that you need to prioritize. And it will affect ultimately the length of time it takes to get there.
Right.
So when we look at it, mindset then technically is the overarching thing that encompasses whatever you want to achieve in life. It doesn't have to be fat loss, doesn't have to be lifestyle change, could literally be anything. If you are able to reframe your language to help move you forward, if you are able to use affirmations maybe to build up your self-belief. For a long, long time as a runner, I sucked. Like literally 30 seconds and I was dying. And all I would have on repeat in my head was, I can, Melissa, 2 more steps, 2 more steps, 2 more steps. And that was like literally, it was like that chugga, 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 you know, I think I can. And that eventually kept me going until I was like half marathon, et cetera, et cetera. But had I not done that and had, because it sucked in my first however many runs, stopped or quit and never tried again, obviously we all know what that would have happened. I wouldn't have been able to run, and I wouldn't have run, and I wouldn't be running now. I probably wouldn't be a personal trainer or a coach. So basically, I guess at the end of the day, or do you have something to say?
I do. There's one thing I see on here that I think is another key. So one of the points we have listed here is length of time. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things, if you tie that back to surface level results, is if you're the type of person who is in this lifestyle because you're wanting to make the physical change, you're wanting to lose weight, be bikini ready, those sorts of things for the summer, then you are looking at a very compressed timeline. And because you're looking at a very compressed timeline, you don't necessarily care to dig deep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because you don't necessarily care to dig deep, then you will still just remain with the surface level results. You won't dig into why. And a lot of people struggle with the time that it actually takes to achieve the results they want, both from a physical point of view and a mental point of view. And if you're not willing to take that time to learn the whole process, be patient, trust the process, go through the whole thing, that's where the growth is.
I think that one thing that we should just briefly say here is that your fat loss results, technically, while they can be a focus, they shouldn't necessarily be the main focus. And the reason I say that is because if you don't put your main focus on your habits, behaviors, and mindsets and overcoming those things or improving those things, at the end of the day, any fat loss results you get are going to be what Kevin said, which is surface level, which means you're likely not going to be able to sustain them. However, if you do go dig into the habits, behaviors, and mindsets and practice, and who cares how long it takes, be patient with yourself, etc., because growth, again, is a dance, not a light switch, then I can guarantee, I'll even guarantee this, that if you focus on the habits, behaviors, and mindsets and action those things consistently, fat loss is going to be a byproduct of that. It is almost guaranteed. It happens every time. So I guess couple of other things just before we finish it. Mm-hmm. I think that it's important to understand that what you think you become. So what you tell yourself or what you repeat often, the things that you, if you think in your head that you're not going to do this, or if you think in your head this is the pattern that you have, and you're constantly kind of waiting for that, what do you think is going to happen? Because you're waiting for it, because you're anticipating it, because you're basically building it into fruition. If you, what you say you create is another one. And so if you're constantly telling yourself you can't, that you fucked up, that you're no good at this, that this is not for you, that you'll always be fat, so to speak, or whatever, what do you think you're going to create? You're going to create that in your life. You have to, even if you don't firmly believe it right now, you almost have to, or you don't almost, you have to switch your language from something that doesn't have to be going from super negative to super, super positive where you almost make yourself sick in your own head. But it should go from something negative to something more neutral. So What's a good example of that? Let me see. I can't do it versus I can't do it yet. Those two things are two very different ways of saying something. And one is saying I can't do it ever. If you say I can't do it, you're basically telling yourself you can't do it, you might as well quit. If you say I can't do it yet, you are giving yourself your opportunity to grow into it and still achieve it and keep trying and keep practicing and keep focusing on improvement. And that's a very different way with with a 3-letter word at the end. It makes a lot of difference. So I'll also add this brief point. I talk about this a lot. One thing that you have to remember when you're trying to shift your mindset and work through things to change kind of where your thoughts and where your tendencies and stories and stuff like that go is that your brain gravitates to what it knows. Your brain gravitates to what is comfortable for it. And even though you want change deeply, you are going to have to fight mentally with your brain, basically with yourself, because your brain, even if the thing you do consistently doesn't serve you, your brain doesn't care about that because your brain only wants to keep you safe and comfortable. Right. So when you're trying to fight mindset, which could be derailing your process, you have to deeply understand that your brain is trying to keep you safe. That does not mean that you can't fight it. And it also does not mean that you won't have a lot of mental energy focused on the things that you must do, even though there's a side of your brain that's trying to pull you in the direction that you always go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So I think when you're going through your processes of change or your processes of digging into your mindset, if that's what that's what you want to call it, or if you're starting a process where you're noticing the language you use with yourself, or if you already know that you are more all or nothing person, more perfectionist tendencies, that you have these self-sabotaging patterns and you don't know how to fix them, you have to understand that the mental energy and focus that is required to change those things is a lot, and you have to accept that. But you also have to accept that it's really hard as one single entity with no help or probes or coaching to be able to be completely objective with yourself and see all of those things. I personally would not have had the growth that I've had if I hadn't done counseling, if I hadn't had coaches, both in business and in health and fitness. And this might be a shameless plug, so to speak, but if you want to change your mindset, if you want fat loss results, if you want a sustainable lifestyle change, and you want somebody to help you dig into this, this is like my jam. This is the kind of stuff that this is my favorite stuff. This is my favorite stuff. This is the stuff that gets me up in the morning. The digging into people's patterns and the way that they do things or don't do things. Maybe it's as simple as, I tend to continuously tell myself I'm not motivated, and every time I tell myself I'm not motivated, I dwell on it and then I don't show up. It's still not easy to overcome, but that alone, all you have to do is tell yourself and actually take the action. So this is the other thing. Before we go, I said we were only going to take a half an hour.
Which is good there.
Is that one thing you have to do and you have to remember? I talked to my longer term clients about this on Monday. When you're working through your stuff, your shit, your things, for lack of better words, you also have to be willing. You can't stop action. So a lot of times what will happen is people get into these ruts or grooves where they're like, oh my God, I need to fix this and I need to fix this and I need to fix this. And then they start to take in all this information. How do I fix it? What do I do with it? And they're processing, and they use the words processing. But in the meantime, they're not taking any action towards the goal that they want. At the end of the day, you can still process and you can still get information and gather information and still take appropriate action, habits, behaviors, because a lot of times, and in my personal experience, you figure more shit out about yourself as you take the action through it. So you can't let something that could be like a self-sabotaging tendency or some sort of thing that you're digging into about yourself, a self-limiting belief or whatever, hold you back from actually taking action, because the action is the only thing that will help you overcome it in the end. I think we can probably end with that. But you can go, because I just babbled for 10 minutes straight.
Yeah. So about 3 trains of thought entered into my head, and they've all left the station. So thank you for that.
You need to do what I do, which is write it down.
Nah, that wouldn't help because I can't read it from here anyway without my glasses. I guess if I want to close with one thing, actually be two things because you just sparked something there with your thought process. Um, actually, now that train left too. Uh, yeah, I think I can. No, I can't. It's gone. But when you talk about um, digging into the process and those sorts of things, uh, and trying to figure things out, what a lot of people do most of the time is the first thing to do is go to Dr. Google and start Googling all these things and figuring out, because people want the remedy now. They want to get on the next best thing that gets them the result, right? So you got to be careful with that, like doing the research and things like that on your own. I think the first step, shameless plug, is when you get to the point where you've been on the diet hamster wheel, I call it, over and over and over. You got to stop trying to figure out the answer for yourself. You got to stop looking on the internet for the next quick fix. Go to an expert. And it's something just as simple as talking to an expert, whether that's going to the gym and seeing a personal trainer, going online, talk to someone like yourself, that has all this wonderful knowledge, and get the basics and let that settle in, sink in, and click. And I think that will be the biggest benefit as opposed to rambling on the internet. The last thing that I want to talk about before we go is something you brought up earlier, regarding the process and how long it takes and those sorts of things. Think about if you are at a point in your life where you're looking at yourself and you want transformation. You want surface level transformation, but you also understand that you want internal transformation and you want to be and have a proper lifestyle. Think about how long it took you to get to this point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're 45 years old or 35 years old, or like me, almost 55 years old, you take a look in the mirror and go, look, it took me 55 years to get here. Now I want to make a change. So you shouldn't expect the transformation to happen overnight.
Right.
Right. And that's one of the last things I wanted to talk about, because that's a huge mindset thing that most people struggle to overcome with, is the fact that it could potentially take 40 years, obviously, but in some ways, as long as it took you to figure out that you were the way you are and you want to change it, it'll take you just that long to change it.
Yes. And you just something else for me. I promise.
Here we go.
I promise we're going to shut up soon. Because you said something about how my mindset talk, and I was talking about how the brain gravitates to comfort, but the brain also gravitates, just so you're aware, especially when you decide to Google something and all those things, for some reason, and this is something I read in a book recently, the brain gravitates to complicated. So what I've figured out about myself over time is that simplicity is the key for me, because I overthink everything and I have this tendency to, as Kevin puts it, go into spin dry. I've learned over time and through coaching, because all my coaches have pointed it out about me, that I have this tendency to gravitate to making things way more complicated than they need to be. So over time, I've learned to keep things super fucking simple for myself. Excuse my fucks. I do swear. I tend to swear a little bit when I get passionate about something. And can you see if she can get the passwords? And one of the things that I have noticed is that people gravitate to complicated. So what I've done in my coaching and with myself is that I've aimed to keep things so simple that it's basically a no-brainer for you to be able to show up and do the things. Because I've broken everything down from like a science level into making it super, super simple. And then we touch on all the mindset stuff as we go through the process as well. But people gravitate to complicated. So when you're Googling things, you're basically trying to figure something out that'll work tomorrow, or work yesterday, I should say, but also to something that's super complicated that you will never be able to sustain. And that's where you have to, if you're going to Google things, which Kevin already advised not to do, but if you're going to do that, you have to recognize and ask yourself, use your mindset, am I gravitating to the same things I've always done, or am I trying to improve myself here? And be honest with yourself, because this is the other thing we do as human beings, is we're not very good at being honest with ourselves. We tend to make stuff up. And last thing I'll say, which is Kevin has also touched on, one of the things is that you've already spent probably God knows how many years of your life chasing fad diet after fad diet. I did the same thing. I was 31 when I decided to hire the first personal trainer that I have, and I have not looked back since, and I am now 46. So, but when I first hired the personal trainer that I had at 31, I had already spent at least uh, at least 10 years, I would say, of my life chasing fad diets, doing crazy stuff,
Doing seaweed wraps.
being restricted, doing seaweed wraps, doing grapefruit diets, doing Atkins while I was training for a half marathon, like all the crazy shit.
We did that one juice one there. It was almost like it killed you.
And so
Ugh.
something that I think we don't recognize, because for some reason as human beings, even though we know we're not going to live forever, we never recognize time as the most valuable commodity.
Yeah.
So if you can spend less time spinning your wheels and instead find something that that creates the results you're after while teaching you how to sustain them, and you spend a year doing that, that's already less time than you've already wasted or will waste if you continue to chase shit that simply is not sustainable for you. And that's all we're going to say.
Yeah, we got to give it up because Clarine's knocking on the door there.
Okay. You can end it off. Anyway, we appreciate you for joining on. If you watch the replay, let us know you watched the replay. We like to know who's seeing it, if you're benefiting from our things, and we will be live again in a month from now. So the second Tuesday of March, we will live again.
Still from Mexico.
Still from Mexico. Okay, all the best, guys. Bye.